workshop. I'm Dan B. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic here today, and thank you for coming along. I'm obviously facilitating today to cover for Campbell H. Good luck with what he has got to do today. This study relies on you listening, but please, I pray that you have your big book in hand and follow along, if you can, with me at it, with a pen, pencil, or highlighter. Make any notes if you need to, and write down any questions, and we'll take them at the end of the meeting, like I said. We'll keep everybody muted during the first part of this workshop, except for the facilitators. Any inappropriate behavior not be tolerated, and you will be removed by one of the co-hosts. This meeting is being recorded. The audio portion only is being recorded, and only of the facilitators. The recording will be stopped at the end of the meeting to preserve your anonymity. So have a really great meeting here, everybody. And how we'll start is with the step 3 prayer found on page 63. If you would care to join with me, please. Keep everyone muted. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming along. Oh, I just need to change a couple of settings here before you can do that. Right. Dan B, recovered alcoholic, sobriety date, the 1st of February 2021. I'm coming up to quite a crucial time, and I also know that people I've heard share that either relapse or don't take or come back into meetings, especially some after lockdown. When I was secretary at a beginners meeting, we used to have quite a few people that had been around rooms for a good few years, but had as it, I can't remember the page where it says, resting on their laurels about being recovered, or not necessarily saying that. It's more the mental process of, I've got this, I don't need to do the steps anymore, I don't need to go to meetings, I don't need to help other people, and I find it's given me really good inspiration, not for them, but for me to keep wanting. And I have actually, to be fair, hand on heart, haven't had that personally. I've really wanted to be part and continue to grow within the program and to be of service to others. I hope that day where I don't want to be is never there, because they were quite afraid, and it was quite sad to see. But at the same time, you could see that they also had the knowledge, in the sense and understanding of coming back to the AA rooms, and the program was their solution, which is wonderful to hear, as opposed to thinking, right, well, not thinking, as we know, the malady and the obsession, sometimes we don't have that choice. I never had the choice. I was doing a share yesterday, and there's something that cropped up in my own share that it's funny when I do something about the steps or share on an experience. I very much like to sort of let my God and my aspirations from the higher power speak through me, in the sense of, well, I've got the bullet points of what I want to say, and then let it sort of flow out. And then I find that really, for me, that enables me to get some kind of a real sort of strongish message across. In return, back, I remember doing my very first face-to-face meeting. I was asked to do a share, and I looked like a prep boy coming out of a library. I took about 8 different books with different markers on and things like that, and I ended up not being able to read any of them or look at them. I was that concerned about. I know it's easy to sort of say, but I was that concerned that I wanted to get this paragraph. I wanted this to read that certain way, This had to be in collation to that, and it really didn't. It wouldn't have worked because it would have been too structured. It wouldn't have allowed the personality of the program to come through. So that's how I've always, in a sense, done it since then. I like to obviously have some kind of a breakdown of what I'm going to do, but like today, and like with the Wallace, when I stepped in for Kemble before, is to try and obviously, if I had a specific structure and I was doing this every week, then yes, I would obviously, put pen on paper, so to speak. But it's almost like the experience of the weekend, the experience of the day, can lead me to know what I'm actually supposed to tell you or explain to you. Um, my it has to be my higher power, that there is nothing else that has been able to enable me to be of service and strength to not only AA but the people around me. I was just saying before I started this that I will get to it in a minute, and this is prelude to what I'm going to talk about. This week has gone exceptionally okay, exceptionally well. Our I'll put some little sort of what's it's down on this. Um, I've had the strength and courage to take on extra roles on our family business because my mother's in hospital. We won a case with a billion-dollar company, a small one-man family company. We obliterated them in terms of the data that we wanted to sort of wrongful dismissal and etc. for a large corporation. To the point that it actually got done very quickly. I've been there for the family. I even fitted a starter motor on a commercial vehicle that I've never done before, just because I needed to get this part on the vehicle to keep things moving within the business. I've sorted out stuff on my motorbike that needed fixing. I've done the books, I've done everything, and it was really sort of to the point of stupidness, really. And I think that was the crash today in terms of realizing that everything can be swimmingly marvelous up here if you think about it. But there was something that I was missing and not doing correctly in my own head. And also what I was saying before, I should have recorded it, was the amazing thing is that now I can pick that up. I can almost nearly pinpoint it, but at the same time, it's saving me from going to a point of being a big problem or escalating throughout. Then I don't know, further along the field, and then saying, well, as I've said a few times, hitting the fuck it button, and saying this is all too much. Years and years ago, the commitment of potentially, I would have said this has been a commitment of having to say, right, Dan, you've got to take control and do a meeting tonight or something. I would have been by now 8 o'clock. I wouldn't have even remembered that point. 3-4 years ago, I used to do this little trick the last couple of years. I will get to the book in a minute. I'm just giving you a sort of wind up to the. This is how bad my malady got towards the end. The last couple of years, I remember the part before the blackout, but what I'd used to do, because I used to get, because logically, if I wasn't an alcoholic and if I wanted to know what happened that evening, basically I'm just at home now watching TV or sorting the kids out and bits and bobs. If I wanted to know what happened that evening when I woke up the following day, I wouldn't drink, or I'd only drink a little bit and then go to bed, and then I knew what happened. I used to play a trick in my own head and have a conversation about, right, I'd walk around the house remembering everything, and then I would have a joke with myself, let's see what we can remember in the morning, and then drink to the point of oblivion, and then wake up in the morning and have absolutely no idea. How logical is that? But that's the game. I enjoyed that game. How wrong was I? It was only especially in the mornings when I had the looks of the wife or the worst was a phone call from a potential customer who actually wanted to continue the conversation that we had the previous day. And that's where everything was leaving me at the moment, at that point. And so diving back into what I'm sort of leading us up to today was going back to this share, and that's what kicked it off, was the maintenance steps. I think they're called in a sense, but they are. They're not officially down. It doesn't say in the book the maintenance steps, but 10, 11, 12 is our sort of daily bread as far as I'm concerned. Well, obviously once we got there, I mean, if you think about it, this is also quite scary. When I first was taken through this correctly, was that the first 66 pages, bearing in mind, if I'm going to use the preface, the forwards, the doctor's opinion and everything, then to get to step one, not just say like the first 40 pages, which is just page one, Bill's story. There's 66 odd pages before we actually get to step one. Now, at that point, I was thinking, wow, how long is it going to take me to get through these steps? You know, I'm thinking, Christ, it's going to, if it's 66 pages a step, it's going to be next year by the time I read this bloody thing. But it was only towards, by again, Keystone and reading, and then obviously been taken through this, that I realized that, say, for example, steps 10 and 11 are within like 4 paragraphs of each other. And it was the same with 8 and 9 and 7 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7. They're all kind of really sort of bosh. It was just hitting the home, that step one, isn't it? It's such a fundamental thing. But because they're explaining what they're doing here, what potentially you have, why you do what you do, just to get to that point, which is very crucial. But anyway, step 10 on page 84. This thought this is after obviously the 9th step, they call them the 9th step promises, the promises for step 9. I might actually just for Hoot, just to bring us up to gear on this one, because it's almost what I want to do is explain a little bit about how the 10, 11 and 12 are so close together, but how we've, if it's something you've missed, is how have we gotten there? Okay, so if I start on, I've actually done a little audio on this one on our channel, because I just loved that section. I think it was one of the first things that I'd heard audibly on some old sort of 1930s tape, and it sounded amazing when they did it. And it's obviously noted in meetings as the 9th step promises, but it doesn't say 9th. It's obviously part of the 9th step. But I'm presuming, hopefully, that you've heard this before. And it starts at the last paragraph on page 83. So, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Then, within that first short paragraph section there, it says this thought brings us to step 10. So what thought is that? It's obviously from what we're discussing in the 9th step promises, in a way. I mean, what a couple of paragraphs of positive thinking and positive processing that we can get from that alone is just it still bowls me over now. I could read that. I would do. I'd read it most days. this thought, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. I've got the Rob Meister in here for for any incorrect data that goes across here. I'm hoping it not. But yeah, it's got to be in all cases anything within the steps that's enabling us to find our God of our understanding. Is to get us to this point. We must understand what we have done to get to this point, and we must have believed. And as I'll quickly go, I'm going to jump back to 47 because everything that we've done past step one is wanting to make sure that we've got a direction to go to, and that is our God of our understanding. The initial thing, I mean, I used to initially hide from it for the first few months when someone's talking to me, very new, but I think it's really fundamentally important that not to waste the time and just say, yes, this is a spiritual program of action. There is no left or right about this. If you're either going to run with this as it is, or there is no point, because yes, you can admit you can go through step one, but if you're not willing just to be kind of, all right, let's give it a go, then there is no action or forward thinking in the process. It was this actually that enabled me, once I realized what was ahead of me, after that gave me 4 and 5 doing steps 4. I relished the fact of being able to do it. I must have been quite sick of it. I don't know whether that is, but I used to sort of get confused why people would sit on it for months and months when it's a release mechanism. It's enabling me to move beyond where I've ever been in my life. So our start kicks off with it's the middle paragraph on page 47, which is, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, that it's one of the only ones that I know of that doesn't actually say we are now at step 2 or says step 2. We know we are, but it doesn't say on the page. And it's the very first initiation, in a sense. I don't know if that's a harsh word. We need to ask ourselves but one short question. And this is really not a hard thing to do either. It's not a hard question. It's not even telling us we have to at this point. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? Or am I even willing to believe? What an amazing way of just saying, look, guys, this is the action here, but let's just, if you're not totally with us, just stay a little bit longer and we'll keep you motivated enough to get this thing moving. As soon as a man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon the simple cornerstone, a wonderful, effective spiritual structure can be built. Wow, yeah. Cornerstone, as we know, we used for the triumphant arch, is used throughout the steps to build our triumphant arch. It's a construction metaphor as we walk through. And then obviously page 5, 6, 7, which is great. It's at the bottom. It's appendix 2 about spiritual experience. This, now, was it talked about yesterday or today? I think it was you, Rob, that wasn't in the very first printing, the spiritual experience. It was in the second printing of the first edition, because people, which was rightly so, I am one of them. I didn't have the flash of light spiritual experience, quick, bosh, right, there you go. I'm now know what I'm doing. I was the educational variety. Somehow I got taught something. Yay! So even in my degree, I dictated what I was doing. It was a photography and art based one, right? And we had specific instructions as to what we were doing, especially in the first year. You're not supposed to be sort of what's it about what you wanted to do, and you got given specific tasks to do: draw, paint, do whatever. That's it. I, within the first week, went back to the tutor and asked if I could do it this way. And then they said yes. And then I carried on. I did the rest of the university degree to say, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do it. And that's how, even back when I was 18, 19, I was dictating the show. Yeah. Right. So we got the understanding. This is now may rambled, but what I'm saying is this thought brings us, it's not one thought for me, it's the entire process of the thoughts. Obviously the 9th step promises is obviously a short sort of breakdown of everything that's happened. But if you just jumped in now at page 80, if you had just jumped in at painstaking on 83, and then just read this thought brings us to step 10, you'd wonder what the hell, how have I got here? So this is a sort of like a quick run through of how we actually got there. So then I believe page, I've written it down as that, so hopefully that is. Yes, page 60 then. So basically we've gone from step 2 to within 20 pages, 13 pages. We are now starting the process of step 3. It says we are being convinced we are at step 3. It doesn't mean that we actually have done step 3, because it then later tells us that we are now at 3. I think there was a bit of confusion on my side, totally honestly wise. I thought that was 3, but it's just warming us up to the fact that we are now at step 3. So being convinced that we're, sorry, page 60, last paragraph. So basically it's after the how it works, which is another lovely part of the book. And I've done a bit on the principles I've known before and the actual steps. The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live on self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the rest of the players, and the rest of the players in his own way. I won't bother with that. I'm okay with the rest of that one. But then again, once we process the step of 3, we've gone past, haven't we? This is obviously probably teaching you suck eggs if you obviously done the steps, but I'm just kind of run this through for the step 10, and for those who will hopefully need it, is we have gone from that point. If you're willing and still need some direction as to what you are doing, you're going to need to then finalize that with a decision. It has asked us, oh, are you willing? Okay, fine. But at step 3, we are asking you, come on, let's commit to this, shall we? Let's give it a good solid going over. So then obviously we have this lovely, as I've read before, just to start the meeting, that on page 63 is we are now at step 3, and it's the step 3 prayer. Well, yeah, it's a prayer, but without the amen in it. But if you read actually the very last couple of words, I do thy will, exclamation mark. It's almost like always, come on, always. Also like, all right, mate, yeah, okay, I'll listen, don't worry. But even though we've obviously gotten to that point and we've been asked gently-ish to a point that, come on, do you believe or not? Even at this point, it says we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. We have to, at this, it's fundamentally big on the point of whether you're running still on self-will or not. Even if you're willing to, and at this point, still listening, it's an amazing part of the journey. I can't remember it word for word, but this I've got the copy of the manuscript there, and it says something, I think, in the scribbles, wasn't it? didn't Bill want to say, if you don't get it by now or something, you can throw this in the bin or something? He was that sort of flippant with it. You can imagine if that had been left in, it'd be yeah, basically, mate. Yeah. So if you don't get this, can you just do one? Sorry. No, but it's quite hilarious. I do love his sense. It's so dry, the humor. So obviously, yeah. So we're at 63. 64, we're already, if and this is it, see, steps 3, 4, 5 are within a sort of like short space of each other. Again, from compared to 66 pages. The moral inventory. This is such a spiritual process for me. Whether it is for others is another, like I've said, I wanted this to happen. I needed it to happen because I knew for some reason inside me that I needed to get this moving. I was relishing the fact that I needed to get this out of the way. I didn't want to rush it. Obviously, luckily, as you know, that's the process of being able to lay it out properly. If I was just to blurb it off and just crack on, and there you go, I've done a little bit of house cleaning there. I got a little bit wound up about my cat today. Anything like that, it's not going to work. And I do appreciate that obviously these parts of the book that require somebody who's gone through the 12 steps correctly. My first one didn't. My second sponsor was great on this piece, and I think that's what's made the difference. And I humbly thank him for that today, whatever they get up to. And yeah, so there's nothing really I would like to add on today about step 6, the 4, apart from the fact of that it's a necessity and something not to worry, to not want to go through. Like I said, I think if I was some of the people that actually spent the time on the step 4 as they did, I would have been drinking. I think that was probably the crux of it. I knew that the longer I stuck with these sort of things in my head and not following the action that's required of me, I would have been out there back again. It's simple as, and as it explains about the real alcoholic, the problem drinker, and things like that. I can understand now. I mean, only a few months in, I couldn't work it out then, but I understand that potentially some people don't need it as badly as others. So yeah. So then obviously the last part of this before we get on to what the process is with our steps. Didn't intend, like I say, this to be some kind of read off about how the steps work, but this how I've been told to do it in my head this evening, so bear with me. So then we're on to 72 in such a short space of time, from 64 to 72, bearing in mind we've done an inventory. And sorry, it's the basically into action, and this brings us to the 5th step in the program recovery mentioned in preceding chapters. And it talks about, obviously, we now need to discuss this with somebody else, that's going to be listening, and is also in the right frame of mind. I wouldn't put step 5, 5th process of telling people my inventory through YouTube. I wouldn't have put it through my wife. I wouldn't put it through my best friend. It's not something, it's such a personal, quick process to go through. And there's some things that you can say that require questionings by somebody who's not in the fellowship that would happen. But if you notice on 73, we've got 2 big markers here that do initiate some kind of strategy for ourselves. And in that, bearing in mind, obviously, like I've said prior, but if they've added things like italics or different lettering, it costs more in those days to add these little informational bits. And it had to be quite a big decision, I suppose, then, obviously, if it's going to cost you more money to add just something as simple as an italic or italic. But it's part of the paragraph that kicks off on page 72, but it's about halfway down. It says they took inventory, all right, but they hang on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. Now, this is obviously reading on the basis that somebody is still in the position of not wanting to be understood, not willing to be part of the step 2 and step 3 process, because they are still thinking for themselves that this is the only course of action. Mine was personally to know that I had to let everything go. There was no coming back on this. There was no reason to stop. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. And again, in italics, right at the bottom of that sentence, paragraph, all. It's all about everything, isn't it? And this is where the honesty comes in. We can't do 10, 11, 12 on a daily basis in any shape or form unless we've been honest from the very start. 76. So we've gone, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're already there, aren't we? So page 76. Sorry, my eyes have gone really dry. I do apologize. We're already on step 7, 8, and 9 within such a short space of time. Step 6 is obviously still asking us to emphasize the willingness as being indispensable, because if we have not been true and honest in everything that we've done so far, then we're going to stumble, aren't we? Or I am. 6 is there just to make sure that you've absolutely no reservations about what everything that you've gotten to do this point. 7 is literally just smack straight after the amazing step 7 prayer, which I do every morning before going out to work or anything in the morning, doesn't matter. Which is all leading us up 4. Then obviously what I'm saying is the 8s and 9. Sorry, my 10, 11, 12. If we've gone through those, it's amazing, really, that yes, okay, I understand that there can be a lot of problems potentially in your 9s, depending on what's down there. But if you know by now that this your God of your understanding, your higher power, your sunlight, the spirit, whatever is going on there, has gotten you to this point. And I found that I had gone through, I'd taken on one of the largest contracts right literally about 2 months after my sobriety, and I had to take it on to keep the business in good stance. So the idea that some people say, oh, I need to take a year out from work to do the steps, or I'm not going to rush my way through this, and I did that privilege, in the sense that at the time I thought it was a privilege, was out of my control, and I needed the program as much as anything to enable me to keep everything going for the rest of the family and those around me. And then so in that scenario, again, for myself, having to do an amends or to talk that process through with somebody was again a release. It was nothing more than an exception of moving forwards. I really struggled in not doing it. I didn't want to rush it, but because you've got to be very bloody careful sometimes. But I found, even if I mentioned the concept, I mentioned started to try and do something with my mum, and she, what, I don't know whether it's something to do with the way that they know, and she didn't even, she just leant over and says, no, you don't need to. Everything's fine. I'm so grateful that you are what you are now. And I hadn't even half opened my mouth. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? And obviously there's people that we can't help, or people that are, in my case, there's lots of people, lots of females in the past that I couldn't well, I wouldn't even know the names, let alone help be of service to them. But I held that inside me and I actually prayed for them. So yeah, again, it's all about that. And I've struggled. This is where, so I've raced through the steps, haven't I? Just to get to the point what I'm talking about from what I started off talking about. And then also going back to what the purpose of it was. As I said, it was the educational variety, and I think I've had to work continually at it. And I found what it was today. I mean, obviously, the physical size, as it says, you know, when there's something that needs to be done via a professional, then obviously, yeah, things physical need to be sorted. And I've found out from being in sobriety that my drinking has caused problems, and I'm now pre-diabetic because of the situations of what I used to drink. Now I know that when I get very tired, it's more fatigue tired, that I've done something too much and then I can stop. This week I haven't. I've taken a little bit of my own will because I'm thinking I'm actually doing so much for everyone else and it's going so well. I'm going to continue doing everything that I can for everyone around me. Somewhere in talking about this evening, I realized that a little bit of a couple of little things were also including me that would benefit me, that would make my life easier. That's something that I would get kudos for. These little things can fundamentally be something that will help a lot of other people, and I get it today. And there is nothing wrong with the fact that if you're helping someone, everyone else gains from that. But there's something that I'd missed, and that was not thinking. I was so engrossed in trying to help somebody so much and everything around me that my thinking got clogged into the wrong direction. I'm still doing really good things for other people, but I'm not, my focus has gone off just very slightly. I've just had a little bit of stumble on the broken slab on this lovely highway that I'm on. It just caught my shoe a little bit, it's got, oh, what was that? But isn't it an amazing process to think that you can catch it, you can understand it, and you want to understand it? It's enabling me to want to be here now. It's, it gives me goosebumps sometimes when you feel so bad about something. Sorry, and then so this thought brings us to step 10. Now, what this ramble has done for the last 40 minutes has enabled me to explain to you how I think the big book is processing information in my head. I've got the referee, like I said, on the left-hand side, who's been nicely putting information in the chat. And I haven't had a red card yet, so that's a good sign. So we can't stay on. Step 10 is such a short process for me. It's an amazing thing to do, and it's also not what we need to stick at, because if we are just doing this every day, step 10, we suggest we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to growing in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Now, so we're continuing, and the word continues there again, to watch selfishness and dishonesty. But unless we are practicing step 11 with that, the prayer and meditation side of things, they work hand in hand to keep us secure. So obviously, yeah, we need to make sure that we're not in a position of making something, don't lie. I've corrected myself. This is another thing. I've corrected myself a couple of times this week and saying something, and then I've played it back in my head quickly and just realized, no, I don't think that came out right. I think that makes me sound like I've done something I haven't. Well, hold on. No, it's actually this John, Chris and Harry and what's it? They processed this. It came back to me, and then I obviously placed it, blah blah blah. It's just little things that I've noticed that I'd have say if it's almost like a blag. Do you understand the word, the phrase I've blagging it, as in it's a way of kind of bypassing something that somebody else has done, and you kind of should put it off on your own as if yeah, I did all that, yeah, I've done all this sort of stuff. Might be a little white lie potentially, but then if you put all of those little white lies into a little your pocket and you go, no, it doesn't matter. Suddenly by the end of the week, you've got 20 white lies that suddenly become bit to it, or they fall out of your pocket, and suddenly you can't deal with it anymore because you've just processed so much little bits and bobs. And luckily, obviously from step 10, that's not part of my daily life. Or as I'm correcting myself, and also did want to share was that even as far back as 3 and 4, when I worked out that I could not take any more baggage on while I'm still processing my 4 and 5, wouldn't it be a bloody good idea to stop lying and being a prat while I'm doing that, to add to the list? And which obviously, that made such a difference to me. So the 10 and 11, they can't work. What I'm saying is I'm leading to this final point. Somehow I'm looking at this couple of pages and I'm going, where's my final point? This thought brings us to step 10. I know there's a saying, I don't know whether it's not part of a meeting, it's just something that I think that's gone on. The only step to get 100% right is step 1 or something. But for me,